Hey guys, welcome back. So today I brought home a 5,000 watt PowerMate generator. This one's in pretty rough shape. According to the seller, this was stored outdoors under a tarp and the water got the best of it. The frame's rusted, the outside of the engine is badly oxidized, the tank is rusted and probably shot, but I think worst is that the engine is stuck. So most likely this one is parts, which is fine. I only paid $20 for it, but there is also a good chance that that engine could be freed up. So before taking this thing apart, I do want to look at that engine more closely and see if we can't get it unstuck. So let me get you set up a little bit better and get going on this thing. So there's an up close look at the tank. Not looking so good. So I'm just going to get this tank off. We'll get it out of the way, and that'll give us better access to the engine. This engine, although it's branded PowerMate, it is a Yamaha engine. Most likely it's an MZ300, potentially a 360. Anyway, the engine doesn't move. So I'm going to get the spark plug out, take a look in there first, and see what we see. There is some rust on the spark plug, not terrible, but it is a sign that water got into the top end. Yeah, it's not looking too good. I actually just put a borescope down the spark plug hole, and I couldn't see a whole lot other than kind of the top of the piston, and there was a lot of rust on top of the piston. So, the piston itself is made of aluminum, so the rust must have come from somewhere else. I'm guessing the valves, or possibly just the bad fuel may have bled past the needle and gone in there. I'm not really sure. Anyway, I'm going to get the valve cover off. I want to see if the valves are free, and if they are, then I will just fill the cylinder with some PB Blaster. We'll get the blower housing off and see if we can't get that piston to move. I'd say whatever stuck that piston most likely came from the tank through the carburetor. Somehow, I have a broken cooling fan. Not sure what happened there. Don't see any signs of anyone hitting it. And we have a critter. All right, I'm not going to force it. I'm going to let the PB Blaster do its work overnight. I am going to tilt the engine up so that, the cylinder here is more vertical to get that PB Blaster kind of more evenly distributed all around that piston. Ooh. So I've got the leak down tester hose in the spark plug hole, and just putting my thumb here to feel the compression, and there's no compression. So I guess that's not too surprising. I'm going to hook up the leak down tester. We'll just add a little bit of pressure, get it to top dead center, and see where we're leaking. Well, surprisingly, the compression isn't blowing by the piston and rings. It seems to be the intake valve that is hanging open. So to give this engine any chance, the head needs to come off, the valve's lapped, and it's probably a good idea anyway. The cylinder, I think, is a cast iron sleeve on this, and all the PB blaster that has come out has been very rust colored, so I'm sure it would do this engine a big favor to pull the head and at least wipe a majority of that rust out of there. And then we'll put it back on and see if we can build any compression. Just going to double check what this is torqued to right now. We'll start at 20. Guessing it's close to 30. Spinning at 20. Okay, maybe someone's had this off. Yeah, glad I took the head off. That is a mess in there. Top of the head too, actually doesn't look terrible, but yeah, that is a mess. Also, the head bolts were all quite loose. I did double check the torque before loosening them, and they were turning at 20 foot-pounds. And honestly, a bolt this size, I would expect it to be closer to 30. Yeah, it's not looking too good. that cylinder bore is quite rusted out and pitted, and that goes most of the way around. You know, the top maybe is a little bit better, but only just. So this might be the end of the road for this engine. You know, out of curiosity, I went online to see what options are available for this engine. So I tried finding the identifying model info for this engine on the block and was surprised, actually. This is not a Yamaha. It is a Yamaha clone of an MZ360 made by Sumec, S-U-M-E-C, back in 2007. So I haven't been able to find a parts diagram that for sure is this engine. So any attempt to rebuild this would be a shot in the dark. And even if I could source the parts, I'm not sure it makes sense. So, you know, I bought it as a parts machine. That generator head is most likely good, as well as a bunch of other parts. So I am going to lap that valve anyway. I'm going to put this together. I think I can get it to run well enough to do some load testing. So that's what I'm going to do. I know it seems silly to change the oil on an engine that's dead, but I want to give this one the best chance possible. And as you can see, the bottom end probably has issues as well. There is water in the oil. Yeah, it's a little rough, but I think I can get it to seal. We'll do the exhaust valve too. This one actually looks worse. Okay, we got compression. I wouldn't say it's great. I am going to put the compression tester on there and see what it is. All right, this has a compression release, but we should be closer to 60. So if we can't even build to 60, then we might have trouble starting, but we'll try it anyway. Before going any further, I'm going to see if this thing will fire on starting fluid. So I've got the light hooked up just in case. I've also got the spark tester hooked up, so if it doesn't start, we'll know if it's due to lack of spark or a lack of compression. Nice. Let's try it again. All right, this one has potential. I can't get it to run more than a second, so not enough to get that light to come on. We need to get a carburetor on there. So I'm sure the carb that came on there is a mess. Let's open it up and take a look. Wow. Yeah, this one doesn't look great. Could it be cleaned? Maybe. But I do have another one. I know this one has issues, but not nearly as bad as that one. So I'm going to open this one up. I know it's missing parts, so we'll try to make it complete, and we'll use this one instead. Yeah, so the only part actually missing on this one is the needle. Also, this arm is broken right here, but it's still holding the pin good enough. So if we get a new needle in there, this might be good enough. I actually think that might work. Yeah, I'm missing a bowl seal on this one. What do you think? Good enough? Okay, ready to give this thing a shot. Got the fuel hooked up and everything here on standby. I suspect it is going to be hard to start and it may not get up to speed. Even if it does get up to speed, I think the engine's going to drop quite a bit under a 3,000 watt load or even stall. The typical drop is about 2 to 3 hertz under that kind of a load on a healthy engine. Also, when putting this together, I realized after the fact that I had lost spark. So I double checked the oil. The oil is full, but there is something wrong with the ignition kill. So I had to disconnect that wire right here, and now we have spark. But, that means if I need to shut it down, I'm going to have to reconnect those wires. Anyway, let's give this thing a try. Yeah, it's flooding pretty bad. Let's try it anyway. It's not half bad. (119 volts, 62 hertz. That's not bad. 3,000 watts, 60 hertz. This one surprised me. I did not expect it to start up like that, and it ran pretty good. We were at 62 hertz, 120 volts, loaded it to 3,000 watts, and the engine speed held right at 60 hertz, which is what I would expect from a healthy engine. We did see some blow-by toward the end. I was actually kind of surprised that it was white. We have fresh oil in there, so I'm not really sure where that is coming from, but all things considered, this exceeded my expectations, but given what we know about the engine, I can't sell this to someone. So I'm going to get this back inside and uninstall that power head. Yeah, this was new oil, but you can see it's already turned white. Even though I drained the old stuff out, there was still enough water in there to do this. Before disassembling this engine, I am curious what the actual leak down is on this. So I've got the engine rotated to top dead center and got the leak down tester out and zeroed out. Now, on most healthy engines of this size, the leak down that I've seen is usually around 25% or less. And really anything in the green, the engine will run halfway decent. Yellow, obviously, not so good, and red is bad. So I am curious to see what this engine's leak down is, given that it still runs. Yeah, we're at 80% leak down. So not too good. I'm sure a lot of that is coming out the crankcase. So let me put my thumb on the breather. And if we give it a second, the pressure, the leak down will start decreasing. And it's getting hard to hold my thumb on here, so I'm going to take that off. And as you can see, quite a bit of leak down past that piston and rings. So I just took the carburetor and the exhaust off. I'm just going to drain that oil out. We'll get the power head off and the engine opened up. Okay, let's try the other side. All right, I've got the engine tipped up, and the way I'm going to get the rotor off this tapered shaft is by using water and an M12 1.75 bolt with some Teflon tape on it. The idea is once this is full of water, you just torque down on this bolt. It builds hydraulic pressure and should pop that rotor off the tapered shaft. This is a well-built engine. Big beefy gears. Really big crank. Looks pretty good. Journal looks halfway decent on the crank. Yeah, all things considered, piston and rings don't look half bad. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with the build quality on the bottom end of this engine. These gears, the crank, the piston, all built very well. You know, this even has ball bearings. So, I mean, this engine was meant to last. It has a cast iron sleeve. You know, I hate to retire it. So I am going to hone the cylinder for a couple minutes, see if we make any progress on that rust. So there's an up-close look at the end result, and I honed this one quite a bit more than I normally do, but you can see there is still pitting. It's definitely better, but it is still there, especially on the side here where that line is. It's like that on both sides. I think that actually was a water line at one point, and that's what led to the damage that we're seeing now. Anyway, I did find the model number on this generator, and parts are available for this engine. Not all the parts, but most of them. You know, unfortunately, there is no oversized piston and rings. And even if there was, I don't think it would make sense to try to do that. I mean, the parts, at least the standard size parts, are quite expensive. I mean, the oil seals alone are $90. And once you add everything up, we're looking at $250, $300 easy. And that's if we don't get this cylinder bored. So, as much as it pains me to say, I don't think it's worth rebuilding this. The parts that I pulled off are worth much more to me than trying to fix this engine. So, you know, I had fun freeing it up, getting it to run one last time, and was quite surprised actually at how well it ran. But I think that just had to do with the fact that it was flooded with gas when I started it. And with the leak down being the way that it was, I think running it at 3,600 RPM is what enabled it to run so well. It just didn't have enough time to leak enough pressure out. I have a feeling if I actually slowed the engine down a bit, then the leak down would have showed itself more. Anyway, I hope this video helps someone. Thanks for watching.